Hola, ¿qué tal? Yo soy la profesora Zapata. Bienvenidos de nuevo a mi canal. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be focusing on tiempos progresivos, the progressive tenses. Let's get started. Okay, let's start with ¿qué son? What are they? Y ¿cómo se forman? How do we put it together? So progressive tenses are basically tenses that tells there is an action in progress, not yet completed, whether it is in the present, in the past, or the future. It is also known as a continuous form. It is made up of two verbs. In English, the equivalent of a progressive tense is the ing. So I mentioned that it's made up of like two verbs, right? So let's think of it as two different parts. Las dos partes. Let's take a look at what those are. The first is verbo estar. Estar is the verb to be, don't forget that. In the tense that you want to indicate. That means you're going to conjugate that verb estar in either the present, the past, or the future. And you're going to add a gerundio. Gerundio. That will be either ando or yendo. Don't worry, it's going to start making more sense as we move along. Just stick around. Let's take a look at the three examples. The first one is in the present. En el presente. The patient is waiting for the doctor. Let's focus on the red part. Is waiting. That's the present progressive. The second sentence, she was studying all day yesterday. That would now be the past progressive. Was studying. And the last one, I will be waiting before you get to the restaurant. That will be an example of the future progressive. And again, focus on the red part. So, if we look at the first example in the presente, the is in English is the first verb that we use. That is the verb estar, meaning to be. That verb gets conjugated, just like it does in English. In Spanish, we do the same. And that part of the tense tells us when the action is taking place. We also call that either a helping verb or an auxiliary verb. Then let's focus on the verb that follows it. Waiting in this example. That comes from the verb to wait. That is the gerundio. And it's that second verb. And that second verb tells us in the sentence what action is taking place. Okay, so now that you know what both parts are, let's now split them apart. Let's look at parte uno, which is focusing on estar, the verb to be, and then we'll look at parte dos. So remember, the first part, right, is the part of the tense or the first verb that we call the helping or auxiliary verb. That will be estar and only estar. We don't use another verb, just estar. Now we're going to be looking at just regular verbs right now. If we look, estar gets conjugated in the tense that you are referencing. So if you are referencing the presente, the present tense, you are going to look at those conjugations and use those. Estoy, estás, está, estamos, estáis, están. If you are speaking in the past tense, then that means you're first verb, your helping verb, has to be in the past. Estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvisteis, estuvieron. And again, we also know who is speaking, right? Or who we are speaking about. And if you're speaking in the futuro, the future, you're going to use estar with estaré, estarás, estará, estaremos, estaréis, estarán. That is parte uno. Not only do we know when it's happening, but also who is doing the action or who we are discussing the action is being done by. So we did parte uno, which is the verb estar, to be. Now let's look at parte dos. Parte dos is ¿qué es el gerundio? So when I mentioned the word gerundio, what is that referencing? So remember, this is the second part of that tense or the second verb. So again, we're focusing on regular verbs for this part of the video. For the second verb, what you do is that you take a verb that is regular and you're going to drop the AR. Remember, that's the ending of a verb. And what you're going to do is, because that verb ends in AR, you're going to add ando to it. So keep in mind the vowel. Ando. AR, drop it, add ando. Ejemplo. If I'm going to use the verb sacar, which means to take out, then that verb is going to lose AR. And then I'm going to add ando, so it becomes sacando. When you do that action, you have created the gerundio. For the second verb, again, if now the verb ends in ER or IR, what you do is you drop those and then you add endo. So the first one was ando. If it ends in AR, well, this one is yendo. Ejemplo, if you take the verb beber. Beber means to drink. You're going to drop that ER and you're going to add yendo to it because it is an ER ending verb. You do the same for an IR ending verb. Now that we've seen how we formed the regular verbs, let's take a look at the irregulares because it wouldn't be Spanish grammar if we didn't get some irregularities, right? So here it is, simple as well. Follow the same rule of estar plus the gerundio, right? And estar is in whatever tense you are describing. Now, this irregularity applies to verbs that end in either ER or IR only. And if the stem ends in a vowel. Look at the example I'm giving you. Leer. Leer means to read. If we look at the stem, it is LE. That stem ends in a vowel. And the end of the verb is ER. So it matches what I just read, right? The irregularity applies here. So I'm going to drop the ER. That's the same thing that I do. And then instead of adding yendo, which would be what I should add because it's an ER verb, I'm going to change the I of the gerundio, yendo. I'm going to change the I to a Y. And then you're going to end up with yendo with a Y. Yendo. And so there you have it. That's an irregularity of verbs that end in ER and IR, but that the stem ends in a vowel. So it's not all of them, only if the stem ends in a vowel. I'm giving you some ejemplos on the bottom. Ejemplo uno. Let's use the present progressive. Yo estoy leyendo. So I wouldn't say yo estoy leyendo. That will be incorrect. Now, notice that my pronunciation It's a little stronger on the Y. Not everybody pronounces it that way, and that's okay. Some people say, yo estoy leyendo. Do you hear how that's a little weaker? And then some people from Argentina, and not that I'm trying to imitate their sound, so I apologize if I don't do a good job, but it would just so you get the to listen to it. It sounds a little bit like yo estoy leyendo. So that's a different sound, but it's still the same grammar. Keep that in mind. And then we see at the past progressive example. Yo estuve leyendo. And then the future progressive, yo estaré leyendo. I am reading, I was reading, I will be reading. What you get to see here is actually a list, una lista de irregulares. Now, this list only focuses on the yendo irregularity. What I just mentioned before, change the I to a Y. There you go. So again, ER and IR. This list is not all complete. It's just the most popular verbs that you may hear. Atraer would be atrayendo. Caer, cayendo. Contraer, contrayendo. Creer, creyendo. Traer, trayendo. Leer, leyendo. Let's go to the right side with the IR. Construir, construyendo. Destruir, destruyendo. Huir, huyendo. Remember, that H is completely silent. Incluir, incluyendo. Influir, influyendo. Oír, oyendo. Ir, yendo. Now you know that these are irregulars in the progressive forms with the use of yendo. Ok, ahora vamos a practicar dos preguntas. La primera, if someone asks you, ¿qué estás haciendo? They're asking you directly. They're asking you, what are you doing? That's right now. That's the present progressive. You are going to answer using the present progressive as well. And you want to make sure you answer that in the yo form because it's being asked directly to you. You can answer by saying, estoy estudiando para mi examen. I am studying for my exam. Now, I added ando as the gerundio because estudiar is an AR ending verb. And I conjugated estar in the yo form in the present because I'm answering in the present progressive form. If someone asks you, what did you do yesterday? ¿Qué hiciste ayer? They're not asking you in the past progressive form, but they could. And also, you could still answer it in the past progressive form. So you could say something like, ayer estuve trabajando todo el día. Yesterday, I was working all day. Again, estuve is estar in the yo form of the past. En trabajando has ando as the gerundio because trabajar is another AR ending verb. We are almost at the end of our video, but let's finish up with diálogo corto. Diálogo, a short dialogue. We're going to use it just in the present progressive form. And I've given you some suggestions to answer. So I'm only going to be asking the questions. Where it says LPZ, that means La Profesora Zapata. I'm going to be reading that. And I'm going to pause and you can answer following my suggestions. For example, number 1, you should be answering in a positive way. Number 2, Say you're only practicing on weekends. And if you don't know how to say weekends, it's on the third question. Say on the third one, you are learning little by little. And little by little is poco a poco. Okay, let's get started. Remember, we're focusing on just the present progressive and you are practicing. So you want to make sure you're conjugating your present progressive correctly when you're giving me the answers. Here we go. ¿Estás repasando las conjugaciones? Muy bien. ¿Estás practicando todos los días? ¿Solo los fines de semana? ¿Pero estás aprendiendo? Okay, that was a short dialogue. The first one was asking, are you reviewing your conjugations? The second one, it was very good. Are you practicing every day? And the last one was only the weekends, but are you learning? Okay, we've made it. We have come to the end of our video, but I am not leaving you until we just review the formula. The formula is the following. Estar conjugado, tiempo indicado, más gerundio, aereando, yendo. I'm not sure I have to translate this. I think you got it. Let's take a look at the example. Nosotros estamos esperando el bus. So if we look, we can plug in the formula very easily. Nosotros is our noun, in this case our personal pronoun. Estamos comes from estar, conjugated in the present tense to match our pronoun nosotros. Esperando has the gerundio ando because if we take a look at the left, esperar is it's an AR ending verb. So I'm going to add ando to it. We are waiting for the bus. Okay? I'm sure you got it. It was a lot, but you got this. Keep practicing. Grammar is not that bad in Spanish. It's a lot, but when you unpack everything little by little, I think you understand it better, and then you can put it all together when you start speaking more. Make sure that you email me with any suggestions that you may have or any questions at laprofesorazapata@gmail.com. I really love these videos and enjoy teaching you, and I hope you do too. Stick around and continue to learn Spanish with me or perfecting the skills you already have. Ciao, ciao. Nos vemos pronto.